Hello, how's everybody doing today? It's been a bit of a strange static energy, but it sort of seems to have cleared. I thought the last 4 videos on water, I thought that might be the end of it, but no, there is more to come. And if you think about the terminology that we use when we talk about spirituality and getting downloads and tapping into things, and I've mentioned this quite a long time ago on a video, how particularly if you're in a shower, having a shower, the running water, or even in a bath, you can get these like spiritual downloads and questions get answered. And it's amazing what sort of comes out of all of this. So I need to backtrack to Sunday night. It was a meeting of the Energy Flow Tribe hosted by Claire and Stephen, and some old faces and some new faces. So in total there was about 23 of us, and boy was there some energy. Sitting in a circle in a group meditation, and it's beautiful to see, shall we say, the top half of like a cosmic egg of energy over the group. And what came through to me, and I couldn't pinpoint it to specific individuals, but sort of in the general area of the circle, was coming up 1111. So I asked the question, are any of you seeing 1111? And sure enough, yeah, I see the numbers. And so it's like, I'm sure you want to know what it means. Now, some of you will see 1111. Some of you, I suspect, have seen 111. What's the difference in what you're seeing? The message is the same. It's basically saying pull yourself together as one. Now, if you think about it as the 1111, which adds up to 4. 4 is the number of death. It's also the number of transformation. Death is a kind of transformation, depending on whether you want to think of it in the physical, in the negative way, or in the spiritual way. It is a transformation. There's no way around that. It is definitely a change. Up to you how you want to feel about that, whether you see it as something positive or negative. Don't shoot the messenger here, hey? I'm just relaying information. So I think what you'll find, if you are leaning more to the sort of spiritual side, or your interests are more sort of towards astrology, tarot cards, meditation, the looking within, I would say what you're probably going to get is more likely the 111, the 111, the 3. Whereas if you're leaning more to looking externally at past history, all kinds of external topics, you're going to get the 1111 predominantly. You'll know which you've had and what you've been drawn to looking at. So it comes down to, as Rudolf Steiner talks about, you having 4 bodies. Think of yourself being like an inverse Russian doll, as it were. So your physical body, the solid part, just like the atom is the smallest part, and then you have your toroidal field, hence all the keep 6 foot apart and everything, because you have a aura, a toroidal field of energy around you. You have your 4 bodies, your physical body, your etheric body, your astral body, and your eye organization. In terms of water, as I said on, I think it was the previous video or the one before that, I explained about the modalities of water as either ice in its solid form, its liquid form as water, its gaseous form as air, and then beyond that you move into the ether. So that is 4 bodies, and everything is all connected through the water. So hence having a shower, you've got this running water. It is a literal download in both senses, in the physical sense and the metaphysical sense. So it's saying pull yourself together. So if you're looking externally, that's including the physical body. If you are leaning more to the, shall we say, the spiritual side, the internal work side, well, you're already aware of being more than just the body. So that's why you're getting the 111 rather than the 1111. But the 1111, it's a doorway, it's the Janus. Everything is anthropomorphized. So the whole thing with Janus, which Paul on What the Flock TV predominantly focuses on, consider that's probably anthropomorphized. Now, I would recommend listening to a recent video on Brian Scott channel. It's a Dr. Joseph Murphy, where he explains that the husband, the divine masculine, is the conscious, the sort of thinking side, and the divine feminine, the virgin, the Mary, which comes from the Latin to do with the sea. It's nothing to do with a woman, it's the subconscious, it's the pure thoughts in the subconscious that will interact with the conscious. So if the conscious is feeling something, the subconscious will respond to it in whatever is communicated from the conscious. It makes no judgment, it just will be like an ever-loving, beautiful wife, and it will serve up whatever is being instructed from the conscious mind. So if you are feeling fear, it will serve you up more fear. If you are feeling want, because you feel like you lack something, you're saying to yourself, I haven't got, well, that will give you more of that feeling. It all communicates in the feeling. Where do we want to go next? Yeah, so the brain and the heart are, let's just go back to the little notes, because it's bringing heart and mind together. According to the sort of Google search I did about how much of the body is water, the organs of the heart and the brain are each 73%, quite a high figure, but it's the same percentage for both, because the heart has a cellular brain structure in it as well. So it's about bringing everything into alignment as one. So you want to be working in alignment between mind and heart, so it's coming from the heart, just like water. It comes up from below. I mean, surely you don't think the amount of water that comes out of springs is just rainwater that's come down, it's water that's coming up. And brings me on to another little offshoot from this. I said on a previous video about probably the origin of man is Oregon. Well, go and have a look at Old World Florida channel. I'll put the link in the description, and it talks about where the Fertile Crescent, where the Garden of Eden was, and he puts a very strong case, Dr. Longo, on this, and no reason to doubt it. Things are played out, like he says. The Bible may be metaphysical, but it is also a script that is played out in the physical as well. And beyond that, thinking back to Rudolf Steiner again, it's a short lecture. I think it's the inner kernel of man, and basically talks about how an NPC is created. So your karmic reincarnation will be very much depends on your experiences in this lifetime. And the consistent pattern that I'm seeing and getting is, depending on what lessons you learn in each life experience, if it goes horribly wrong, as it were, you need to be taken back to something that is more natural order. So now I've actually seen this. I don't care whether you believe me or not, but I know what I've seen, I know what I've felt. And that is someone who would say you would perceive and label as an NPC. They're reincarnated, not as a human being. It's like you need to do things in a more natural way. So you're not reincarnated as a human, you sort of take a fall, as it were, and you're reincarnated as a mammal. We're going to take two examples of this, and there's something that you'll see that does figure a lot in ancient civilizations, and that's the cat and the dog. There's not just one thing with this either, and those of you that have got pets, interesting that word pets, I'll come to that in a minute. It's if you're this, you're a cat, if you're that, you're a dog. There's like subcategories within that. So some of you that have got cats, you will find you get very playful cats. Other ones seem to be more connected with wisdom. And it's a reincarnated soul. And depending on the life experience will depend on what type of cat they come through as. Likewise with dogs. Dogs are basically, the soul is assigned as like a protector, as a guardian, same with cats as well. And the untimely death of these pets is they sacrifice themselves to protect you, something to do with your spiritual development. They're with you for a short time anyway. That's part of their life lesson. Because those that are with more the wisdom, they will come through as a cat or a dog, but without the unfair advantage of being able to communicate it as a human would communicate to a human. There's like a restriction put in place. But you can develop the talking to the animals again. That's starting to happen anyway. It comes down to if you haven't learnt sufficient lessons and haven't spiritually grown, it's like you'll be sort of put back, as it were, in some cases, as a cat or a dog. And then you have to learn through observation, through instinctive intuition, taking the intellect, because the intellect has sort of taken you down a wrong path, so you've reincarnated not as a human. Not to say that cats and dogs are lower, but it's just a different state of consciousness, all to do with the overall picture of the spiritual growth. So you think about, they're referred to as pets, and I can't help but think of what in ancient Egyptian is called first time, which is Zepi Tep, or Zepi Tepi, I think it is. So if you take the I off, Tep reversed is pet, and Zep, you take the I off of that. I was thinking, what would that be? Well, the system gives you that one. Do you remember those, they're like heads on a stick and they're little tablet sweets? I think they're called Pez, which is obviously the reverse of Zep. And if I remember rightly, they're a flip-top head for loading these little tablet-shaped sweets inside in like a cartridge. It's almost like a John the Baptist type of reference, and if I remember rightly, you either push the head down or something and out pops a one of these tablet sweets because it's feeding you from the system. But it's referencing the metaphysical. It's the John the Baptist. It's losing the head. It's the death of the lower eye, where you die unto yourself, being referenced in all this. Where are we going with this? I sort of losing my train of thought because it sort of so much ties in. But think about, as a human, as a baby, you learn by observation, and think about if you take the intellect out of the equation as such, and you're now on the more instinctive level. So you've got a type of ego. Now, if you were incarnate or reincarnating into an animal, you wonder why cats and dogs like being stroked. It's like a reassurance. It's like, yes, you made the right decision to incarnate, and they like being stroked for that reason. It's also because their spines are horizontal, so they're more in touch with the astral plane because they have a greater surface area of the spine where all the nerve endings are. So they're getting the response. So with Claire and Stephen's dog, Eddie, he can get quite excited at times, but I find if I just stroke his back, he will immediately sit down and just calm right down because it's like a reassurance. It's going to the nervous system through the spine, the feeling, through the fur. Because fur is like hair, it's just like antennas, like trees are to the earth, they're antennas. Likewise, fur or hair is an antenna as well. So it's probably why I sort of capture some of the downloads in. I see hair, I let it grow because it's growing naturally. I feel it works in multiple ways. One is like a dream catcher, as it were. Two, it's like a filter to keep out negative influences and things. And it just feels right to grow hair, especially in a colder climate anyway. And of course, if I get too hot, I can always just tie it up and it acts as a sort of body temperature regulator as well, all in one. So, what we covered there. So the 1111, that's more if you're coming from the external side. That's basically saying pull yourself together to transform. The 1111, it's like the two doors being shown to you there. So it's all very well looking externally, and it's all very fascinating looking externally. But the core to anything is that inner work inside oneself. And probably a lot of you will still mystified and puzzled over go within, the answers are all within inside oneself. And of course the conscious mind is, well, that's ridiculous, I don't know anything. It doesn't come from the intellect. If you've experienced this anyway and you get downloads, you know exactly what I mean by this. How you'll just get pictures in your mind's eye, something will just instinctively tell you or confirm something for you. You don't need any external facts, you just know it in the feeling. And again, it comes down to this alchemical marriage between the divine masculine conscious mind and the divine feminine subconscious mind working in unison together, this alchemical marriage within oneself. So you've got the provider and you've got the homemaker working together instead of the conscious mind just going off and listening to the frightened little child and letting that lead. I mean, is that natural to let a child be the head of the household and the adults are sort of following the child in this reality? Yes, babies do know far more, and it's sort of, we devolve the longer we stay in this reality if we go with that external world. But the problem is, with a newborn baby, they haven't mastered that vessel that they've incarnated into. So you've got to learn a language to communicate in. You've got to learn control of the vehicle, the dexterity of like just picking up a bottle of milk or something. To start with, you have to be fed. You can't actually do anything for yourself. That's just the way it is. The sort of intellect has come at the expense of where we've lost the more intuitive abilities of the animals. This is why I say, in some ways you could say man is higher than the animals, but in many ways not. They have a very different type of knowing, but humanity is going through a spiritual evolution where we'll have what we already have, but it'll be enhanced and far greater than what you can imagine. And that is the huge clue to it. It really is expanding consciousness, is expanding your imagination and what you can create. We're on a huge turning point of all life, but particularly as far as humanity is concerned. What you're going to see in the future will depend very much what frequency you're on. Now, if you're in that lowest of low frequencies, the options open to you, or what appear to be the shortcut routes, is addictions, where you sort of can blot out that external world and not have to face it, which is a very destructive one, because when that high wears off, you plummet and you are taken to a new all-time low, which you want to then try and pull yourself back out with whatever substance that you decided you'd try and now find you can't. You're dependent on it, which is perfect. That's just what this system wants. It can feed off your low vibration energy. It keeps you in a poverty trap, and very difficult to climb out of that one. That's really making it hard for yourself trying to go for that shortcut. But again, it depends on the vibration. The more you can raise your vibration, think of it like courses of bricks in a building. Whatever course you're on, you can either go one up or one down from where you are, or maybe 2 steps up, or you can drop 2 steps. So the more you raise yourself up and start losing the fear and the doubt about things and about your own abilities, the door to doubt and fear will close. Because there's no room for either. Even though consciousness is expanding, there's still no room for either of those two. But by closing those doors, we'll open new doors. So it comes back to this 11 and the Janus thing. Because Janus is depicted as like a two-faced, looking both ways. It's often depicted with a female face and a male face, because it is the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I mean, Yan, us. There was no J originally. It's probably a corruption of I am us, basically. And you've come into a realm of duality, so you need to see both sides. It comes back to that yin and yang symbol and seeing both sides. You've got a moon eye and a sun eye. You've probably seen all that black eye symbology. But look at the yin and the yang symbol. You've got the one eye to see in the darkness, the one eye to see in the light. So you just observe, and you're just witnessing things without judgment and walking that very fine line between the two. So I don't want to go right up to 30 minutes, which the last few videos have done, but hopefully that has brought a bit more clarity to this whole thing with the 1111 and the 111. Also about animals and It's probably a lower form of consciousness or a different type of consciousness once you go down into the reptile state. I mean, it's described as the reptilian brain, the fight or flight, but then look how the symbology of the serpents and dragons presumably would be a type of reptile as well, dragons as well, are associated with sort of the reptile world. So that would probably be a different type of consciousness if you were to reincarnate in one of those. But I would have thought most people, if they're not reincarnating as a human, it's more likely going to be a mammal, specifically cats and dogs. And it comes down to that word pet and tepi, and how you have this inverse, because the external is like a mirror to the micro that's within you. You are your own universe inside oneself. After all, you are the embodiment, but you are a micro within a macro, and it's all connected with water. It flows through everything, physically and metaphysically. There is no loss, because water is not just restricted to being in a liquid form. It can morph between all four states. So why would you not feel things from water? Why would you not feel things from the stars? Everything is all interconnected. We are not separate from anything. You have this external world that it tries to convince you that you are separate, of course, but that is the distorted mirror of this external world. So this is why you need the sun eye and the moon eye to sort of navigate your way through these waters, this vast ocean, the deep, which is really what we're in. It's, I mean, you've got a flood going on. It's not just something X number of thousand years ago with an ark. You've had a flood of information coming in a different form, but it's still a flood, and it's a flood to try and drown out the spirituality, making it harder to navigate through with a lot of misinformation, a lot of half-truths. So you've got to try and weave your way through, but the way to do that is go into the heart and come from the heart space, which will open up ways which will guide you through this. It is intuition, after all. It is being self-taught. You are the student and the teacher. Likewise, you are your fiery angel of discernment, or your own gatekeeper in a positive or a negative way. You could see the gatekeeper as a form of protection, but you could also see the gatekeeper as something that is actually restricting you. But it's all going on within inside yourself, after all. It's up to you what you do with it. Anyway, so I'm just relaying messages here, and up to you what you do with it and how much you feel is right. Whatever resonates with you is right to you, but again, use your discernment. If something doesn't feel right, you don't have to agree or disagree. I'm just passing on the information. So I'm going to say love to you all, and we're nearly up to 30 minutes, so that is a good time to stop anyway. So we're in for a beautiful, beautiful time ahead, and things will open up, but it will depend on what vibration within inside each and every one of you, what frequency you're on, what you're able to tap into, and what will be revealed to you. Because there is going to be some spectacular things to be seen, but it's going to depend what frequency you're on, whether you see an epoch collapse or an apocalypse, or somewhere between the two. Entirely up to you. That's your free will. So love to you all, and ta-ta for now.